Tension is rising across the automotive world as Mark McCann finally believes his Bugatti Veyron's gearbox nightmare is over. After months of setbacks, the car finally drives under its own power, seemingly proving the repair had worked. But the first proper road test shatters that hope. The brand new clutch which he just replaced begins slipping. The fault was so bad, Mark admitted it himself, to split the car in two again, pull the gearbox, and start over from the root of the problem. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe to this channel, because what's happening with Mark McCann, Bugatti Veyron rebuild, might expose a system Bugatti can't defend anymore. The real problem began months earlier, when Bugatti refused to supply original clutch components for this particular Veyron. Because Mark refused to ship the car to Bugatti's service center in France. Having no other options left on the table, he was forced to reverse engineer one of the most complex dual clutch systems ever built. The team recreated the clutch using modern friction materials. It looked right, measured correctly, and should have worked. But should wasn't good enough for a Bugatti. Then came the breakthrough nobody expected. The original clutch wasn't just built from different materials. It was engineered around a completely different relationship between friction, oil flow, and cooling. Tiny grooves and surface patterns that looked almost insignificant were actually critical to how the clutch generated grip under extreme loads. Instead of creating friction, the new clutch was effectively floating on its own cooling oil. Like racing tires hydroplaning across standing water, the clutch plates couldn't fully lock together. The engine revved harder, but the power never reached the wheels the way it should. That discovery created an even bigger problem. There was no replacement clutch sitting on a shelf waiting to be installed. If this design couldn't be made to work, the entire rear of the Veyron would have to be dismantled again. The gearbox would come back out, the custom clutch redesigned, and months of painstaking work would disappear overnight. Just when it looked like there were no options left, someone remembered a feature hidden inside the gearbox that almost nobody knew existed. And it had been waiting there for nearly 20 years. The team's greatest advantage wasn't a new part. It was one of the original engineers. Rob Barnes had helped develop the Veyron's gearbox from the beginning and understood something few people on Earth still remembered. The transmission wasn't programmed to stay the same forever. It had been designed to teach itself. Every time the car was driven, the gearbox quietly monitored clutch pressure, wear, engagement, and temperature. It constantly adjusted its own calibration to keep the shifts smooth as components aged. The question was whether that same adaptive software could learn an entirely different clutch built with 2026 materials. There was one major obstacle. The transmission software itself was locked away. Without factory access, they couldn't manually change the calibration or tell the gearbox how to behave. Their only remaining option was to convince the car to teach itself. That meant gambling with the very clutch they were trying to save. Every learning cycle required controlled slipping, and every moment of slipping generated heat. Too much heat would permanently damage the new clutch, forcing them back to square one. Every mile became a calculated risk. The learning process sounded almost unbelievable. The gearbox needed steady throttle, constant engine speed, and uninterrupted driving for around 30 seconds at carefully selected points. Only then would it slowly rewrite its own clutch behavior, one small adjustment at a time. Traffic became the enemy. Every brake pedal, every roundabout, and every interruption prevented the gearbox from completing its learning cycle. Their best chance came late at night, when empty roads finally allowed the car to settle into the steady conditions it needed. As the miles accumulated, something remarkable began to happen. The pull-away improved. Gear changes became cleaner. The clutch started finding grip where it had previously slipped. The gearbox was adapting exactly as its engineers had intended decades earlier. Then, just as confidence returned, another problem appeared. The Veyron suddenly dropped into limp mode, cutting power dramatically. Under normal circumstances, that would have been another disaster. Ironically, the reduced power actually made it easier for the gearbox to continue learning without overwhelming the clutch. After more than 110 kilometers of carefully controlled adaptation, the transformation became impossible to ignore. The experts could feel the difference almost immediately. Engagement was cleaner, shifting was sharper, and the slipping that once threatened the entire rebuild had been reduced to a small imperfection instead of a catastrophic failure. The most astonishing part wasn't simply that the clutch worked. It was that a software routine written 20 years earlier had quietly saved a multi-million-pound hypercar from another complete teardown. Without that adaptive learning system, the rebuild would almost certainly have failed. With the biggest mechanical crisis finally behind them, attention shifted to the smaller problems still standing between the Veyron and completion. Faulty door locks, a stubborn rear wing, limp mode diagnostics, airflow sensor issues, and dozens of age-related faults reminded everyone that rebuilding a Bugatti is never about solving one problem. It's about surviving all of them. Yet the deeper they went, the clearer one lesson became. Many of these failures didn't require impossibly expensive replacement parts. They required knowledge, patience, and engineers willing to repair instead of replace. It was a philosophy that stood in sharp contrast to the factory approach and strengthened the growing right-to-repair debate surrounding some of the world's most exclusive cars. After proving the Veyron could finally drive, the story shifted from survival to validation. Fixing the clutch was one thing, but proving the rest of the car could be trusted was an entirely different challenge. Before anyone could call the rebuild a success, every remaining fault had to be hunted down. The first issue seemed almost laughably small compared to rebuilding a Bugatti gearbox. The anti-hijack system had locked both doors shut, trapping the car in a state where neither the key nor the handles would open it. On an ordinary car, it would be an inconvenience. On a Veyron, where replacement parts are almost impossible to source, even forcing a door open could become an expensive mistake. The team resisted the temptation to replace parts immediately. Instead, they dismantled the mechanism piece by piece, determined to understand why it had failed. That mindset had become the defining philosophy of the entire rebuild. Repair first, replace only when absolutely necessary. The investigation revealed something surprisingly simple. Years of sitting unused had left the locking mechanism stiff, while a slight adjustment to the cable tension transformed how the system operated. A problem that could have resulted in a massive dealership bill was solved with patience and careful diagnosis. That repair reinforced a much bigger lesson. Owning a Veyron doesn't always have to mean paying astronomical service costs. Sometimes, the biggest expense comes from replacing complete assemblies instead of fixing the small component that actually failed. Stories from Bugatti owners only strengthen that point. Routine inspections reportedly cost thousands, and even minor faults could generate eye-watering invoices. The difference wasn't always the complexity of the repair, it was the philosophy behind how the repair was approached. Even with the doors working again, the Veyron still wasn't behaving like a complete car. The rear wing remained frozen in an awkward position after losing communication with the control system. It wasn't just cosmetic either. On a car engineered around active aerodynamics, every moving component serves a purpose. Rather than pretending the problem was solved, the team implemented a temporary mechanical fix that restored the wing's appearance while continuing the search for the underlying electronic fault. It was another reminder that not every victory in a rebuild is permanent. Then attention returned to the one issue still limiting the car's true performance. Although the clutch had adapted beautifully, the engine refused to deliver its full power. Somewhere inside the management system, the Veyron was deliberately holding itself back. Unlike most modern cars, the Bugatti offered almost no useful clues. There were no warning lights pointing toward the fault, forcing the team to diagnose the engine by comparing live sensor data instead of relying on stored error codes. One reading immediately stood out. 3 airflow sensors agreed with each other, while one bank reported values that simply didn't make sense. That inconsistency pointed toward a component they'd already questioned earlier in the rebuild. But one final question still remained unanswered. Mechanical success was only part of the story. Financially, had rebuilding one of the world's most complicated hypercars actually been worth the risk? Or had they simply created the most expensive passion project imaginable?